Hi, welcome to the J29 Business Simplified YouTube channel. My name is Erwin. If this is your first time on our channel, welcome. Today's topic is startup funding explained. Now, I know there are many different opinions or schools of thoughts on funding. Some say that you should not look for funding. Funding should find you if you have a good business idea. Others say that the biggest mistake you can make when starting a business is applying for funding. But in this video, we are specifically looking at a group of people who have decided that you are planning to apply for funding for your business, and you're looking for some information and tips to increase your chances of success. So a good starting point with funding is there are two important questions you need to ask yourself. And the first one is, what do you need the funding for? For example, are you looking for funding to apply for equipment you need? Do you need funding specifically because you've been awarded a contract or an order to fulfill an order? Do you need the funding for working capital for your business? And this question is very important because there are so many funders that are available in South Africa, but many of them fund different needs. And the second question you should ask yourself is, how much funding do you need? Is it 1 million, 5 million, 500 million, whatever your funding needs are? And these two questions are very important because, for example, if I had decided that I need funding for equipment and the equipment I need will cost me, let's say, 2 million rand, I then need to match my funding need to the correct funder. I think one of the biggest mistakes that is often made is that as soon as businesses hear that there's funding available, we stop right there, we do a business plan, cash flow projection, you go and apply, and then only to find out that the company or the funder you've applied with has a limit of 500,000 on the fund they have, and they do not fund equipment. So once you know exactly what you need the funding for, and then you know the amount of funding you need, that's where the research process starts. You need to match your funding need to the correct funder. Because if you keep applying at the wrong or incorrect places that do not fund your business, you are going to waste a lot of time. Now, there's two ways you can find funders for your funding need. Number one, you can go online and you can research using the internet. You could visit funding offices of the businesses you may know. But I think the easiest way in South Africa specifically to find a funder that matches your funding need is to go online to a website called FinFind. I will leave a link to FinFind website in the description of this video. But this is what happens. When you go to FinFind website, you register, you answer a few questions. They ask you questions like, what is your business turnover? Under a million, over a million. And then the next questions go a bit into more detail about your funding needs. And what happens is that FinFind will give you a list of all the funders in South Africa that match your business funding need. So I would suggest the easiest way is go to FinFind's website. It will save you a lot of time in research and find funder that is suited to your funding need. The other important thing I think that most business owners should do before you actually apply for funding, that is often neglected, is checking your credit record. You need to check your credit record before you apply for funding. Make sure that you don't have any defaults, any judgments, any late payments, because it does negatively affect your funding application. Also, make sure that you check your business credit record. Your business does have a credit record. Go online, find out if you can draw a report for your business and your personal name. If your business has many shareholders or directors, you need to draw a credit record on all of the members or directors. Because when you apply for funding and you find that maybe one of the members or directors in your business does not have a clear credit record, chances are you're going to face many challenges in securing that funding. The other thing is to check your banking history. Visit your banker if you do have a business bank account. Make sure that you've got information on your bank account. How many did you have any negative information on your bank account? How do you change that there? What is your credit score? Because these things make a huge impact, and it would be pointless going to apply for funding and getting information back saying that, but you don't have a good credit record. Unfortunately, the funding is declined. And I think it's very important that as an entrepreneur or business owner or startup applying for funding, we need to look at funding from the funder's point of view. And if you're going to apply for funding, you need to match or meet the requirements of the funder. So let's move on to the next one. You've decided exactly and you know what you're applying for funding for. You know the amount of funding you need. You've checked your credit record. You've checked your banking history or your banking credit score. The next step would be, after you've matched and you found on FinFind a funder, or you found a funder through research, is to actually have a meeting. Set up a meeting. If you can't meet face to face, set up a telecon or a Skype call and speak to a consultant. If you're applying for funding at the bank, speak to the banker. Go in. You want to leave that meeting with a checklist of the documents that they need. You need to ask them for a template of a business plan that they prefer, a template for a cash flow that they would recommend you use. And one of the most important questions that you need to ask them is your industry. Are they currently funding businesses in your industry? To give you an example of why this is so important is that you may find that, let's say my business is in the construction industry and I go to a specific bank, let's say Bank A. And Bank A says, look, we are considering construction very high risk at the moment because of bad debt in the industry. So we're not funding any businesses in the construction industry. However, you could go to Bank B and they may not have the same risk view on the construction industry. So you may get funding with Bank B, but not with Bank A. So in that meeting, also find out from the banker, what are their turnaround times? How long does it take to get a response from them? That meeting is so important. If there's one takeaway after meeting with a banker or a funder, it's to build a relationship. Understand what they need. Get somebody that's reliable, that will give you honest feedback on your business and your funding needs. Taking it a step further, so you've got the information, I would say start working on the checklist that they've given you. Funding is mostly a documentation process. If your documentation is not in order, you're going to have a lot of back and forth between yourself and the funder asking you for more information. So I would say, number one, make sure the funding application form is completed fully. Don't leave any blanks. It makes a huge difference. Work on your CV. Any funder wants to know your history and your ability or experience in industry to run that specific business that you're applying for funding for. So update your CV. Make sure you're using the latest version of your CV, including all the information that they would possibly look for. The two most important documents that funders are going to look at is your business plan and your financial projections. Now, I think that when it comes to your business plan and your financial projections, if you do not have any experience with doing business plans, if you do not have any experience doing cash flow projections or financial projections, and you do have the finances or the budget, you can outsource this. You can get somebody to help you do the business plan and to help you do the cash flow. Very importantly, I said help you. This is a paid service, and in my experience before, I've seen people pay 6,000 to 25 to 30,000 rand for a business plan, including cash flow projections. So find out first before you actually go ahead and pay somebody to do this for you. What is the experience? What is the success rate with business plans and financial projections as well? It's very important to note that if you using a service of somebody to do this for you, they are helping you. You as the business owner need to fully understand the business plan, and you need to understand the cash flow projection. And this is why you find that sometimes when you have applied for funding, the banker has finished the administration, they've done the ITC check, they've done a motivation as to why they think your business should be funded. Your entire application goes through to a credit analyst. A credit analyst goes deeper into your business plan. They look at industry trends. Does your financial projections make sense based on what's happening in this specific industry? And at some stage, they may give you a call. And it will go like this. Hi, Owen. It's the credit manager from this company where you've applied for funding. Thank you for your application. Can you tell us a bit more about your financial projections? Or can you tell us a bit more about your marketing plan in your business? You said that you plan or you project 500,000 in the third month of your business. You need to be able to answer that question immediately. You should not say, I will contact the person who done my business plan, or I'll contact the accountant. You need to fully understand that. The alternative, if you do have a bit of experience and you are comfortable with doing a business plan and your financial projections, there's two different options for software we mentioned in the previous video. The one is called Live Plan and the second one is called InLoop. Both are great options for you to use. You can go online. They are paid services with the monthly subscription, but it will help you to develop a very professional business plan. It's got a clear step-by-step guide that shows you each step with examples of how to prepare a professional business plan. In my experience, most of the business plans you can do on InLoop and Live Plan are much better than some of the services you may get out there. And then the final option is that you could go to approach organizations like SEFA. SEFA does provide support where you get a business plan service provider to do a business plan for you. You'd need to meet the requirements of SEFA though. So I would say go to SEFA's offices, see a business advisor if that's an option you're also considering. And then finally, when you are applying for funding, always remember to look at your funding application from the point of view of the funder. So if, for example, if you go into a bank, they need to find credibility in you. In other words, they need to know that you're the right person for this business. Number two, they need to support this credibility based on the documentation you've given them, which is your business plan, your cash flow projection, your application form. And if you make it difficult by not providing the documentation in time, it becomes very complex. The process takes much longer. So I would say always make sure that you try and build a relationship. So now that you have a relationship with the person that's helping you with your funding application, make sure that you communicate with them, that you have their email address, a contact number, keep records of all the emails that you have so that you can follow up. It becomes more easier when you are open about your business. Don't wait until the last minute to tell them that, oh, I've got an issue with my credit report that happened many years ago. Be open and honest, and that's how you build that relationship with the person that's dealing with your funding application. So to conclude, I would say make sure that you saving yourself time and research by using FinFind. Check your credit record before you apply for your funding. Also make sure you've checked your banking. And remember, funding is hugely dependent on the documentation you provide. So make sure that your documentation is done correctly and professionally, and make sure that you have selected the right funder for your business. And also remember, a final one is when you're applying for funding, the requirements, the documents that you need to provide in South Africa are generally all the same. The application form is what differs. And in lots of cases, you find entrepreneurs or business owners apply at one place for funding. And if that's declined, they say things like, oh, it didn't work, I would recommend you to apply it at least 3 or 4 different places. Don't, if you get feedback that says that your application has declined, don't take it personal. Go back and find out exactly why it was declined. I've seen many occasions where somebody's application was first declined because they came back and they got the feedback. They made changes to the business plan, the cash flow, or whatever was requested to be done. And after the second or third time or change that they made, the business was funded. So, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have more questions on funding, I know this was basic. Please put comments in the YouTube video below. Get us on Facebook, or you could go to our website and contact us there with any questions you may have on funding. We will also put out a blog post on our website with a bit more information about today's video, and all the links for everything we discussed will be in the description of this video. So if you're looking to start funding your business, go out there, start the process, learn. If it's declined, try again. If it's approved, great. We'll see you in our next video, and all the best with growing your business. Have a great week.